Up next is Patrick Byrne. And Patrick's an entrepreneur, a civic activist recognized for his work on election integrity, free markets, and constitutional governance. Come on up, Patrick.
Thank you, sir.
Love the shirt. I love the shirt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Pastor Dennis. Free Tina Peters, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen of the Experience Church, General Flynn, if he's here, Sheriff Bushman, who is such an extraordinary American. What an honor. Sheriff Mack and Sheriff Bushman, Sheriff Sam, Sheriff Mack, Sheriff Brown, anyone whose first name is Sheriff counts as. What a great honor it is to speak to you. I'm still a surprise to me. I get asked to come to these, and I don't know why anyone would hear what I have to say. I do have a couple interesting life experiences that I might share with you. I spent in the early 80s, I spent a year living in China when they first opened up. I was there 6 years after the Cultural Revolution ended. So I know what's coming for you. I've seen totalitarianism, and it's crazy that Americans don't seem to understand what's coming for you. It's not a long way off. It's right here. In fact, I'd say it grazed the cheek of this republic just like the bullet that grazed the cheek of Donald Trump. We came so close. And it comes on many fronts. It comes on many fronts. That's the nature of it's kind of warfare that Americans are really not comfortable with or understand, because it's not a warfare that involves tanks and planes and such. It's a warfare that Chinese mastered over 2,500 years, that the greatest victory is to win without fighting. They're masters of it. And to be honest, for about 25 years, there was talk within Chinese national security circles of an upcoming assassin's mace, an assassin's club. And which is a reference to an old Chinese story about two kings were about to fight. Their kingdoms were about to fight, but one got an assassin into the chambers of the other and killed him. And by doing that, that one strike ends the war before it starts. And that term, the assassin's club, the assassin's mace, in Chinese has the combination of two senses for us. One is like a sucker punch, a punch before what the other guy doesn't see coming, and a knockout blow. So imagine if we had a phrase that meant a sucker punch, knockout blow. They have a phrase that means that. They've been using that for 20 years, talking about there's something like that coming for the United States. I think you just lived through it. I think we just lived through it. It didn't work. We were never supposed to get off the floor from what happened 5 years ago. We were never supposed to pick ourselves up. I think we got, to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, this country got lucky because of General Mike Flynn. I think that we were out. I think the country was reeling. Mike knows all this stuff. It's funny, everything Michael knows, because the military is broken down to a science. All of this stuff. I knew it because I was a student over there, and I came back with a deep hatred, just an absolute hatred for everything communist. I love the Chinese. I came to just hate the communists. I hate the philosophers. I spent a few years in the hospital with cancer. I had nothing better to do, so I did a PhD in philosophy, and I ended up studying kind of the intellectual history of the West up to our Constitution, and at the same time, understanding what was going wrong in the universities in America. I really spent my 20s kind of as an invalid, so that's what I did. I thought my plans were to go in the Army, but they didn't take me, so I became a philosopher. I feel like, and I don't want to sound like a fanatic, but I feel like I see exactly what's going on, and I feel like it's like a bad nightmare to spend the last 5 years trying to wake Americans up. So one way to view what's going on is something called a PSYOP. an information operation. What the militaries around the world have learned that you can run people, you can win battles without firing a shot if what you do is you confuse an enemy population and you get them doing the things you want them to do. They do your work for you. And in particular, there's a way to overthrow a country without firing a shot. It's called a Bezmenov psyop, and it comes in 4 stages. And tell me if this sounds familiar. Stage 1 is a demoralization or a weakening of a target population. Stage 2 is disorienting them, inverting all their values. Anything they consider sacred, you say is trash, and things they say is trash, you say is great. It's all about turning their world upside down so things don't make any sense. So you create, and then stage 3 is you shove a crisis down their throat. And then you've created this psychotic reality for them, for a population where nothing makes sense, they're weak, nothing makes sense. You've shoved this crisis down their throat, and it's like a psychotic reality. And every human who's experienced that, and I think all of you in this room who lived through the last 5 years did, there's this great human desire to get back to normalcy, to get everything to be normal. And what they tell you is, and so the fourth phase is normalization. It's to say what you have to just accept as normal everything that just happened and accept you're in a new world. And of course, as I'm sure you've picked up, in our last 5 years, phase 1 of all this was the COVID drama. I assume I'm in a room where people have I used to have to show people the statistics on first of all, that there were lots of treatments that were preliminary treatments that worked that they suppressed. Secondly, the vaccines turned out not to be such a good idea. Follow your own doctor's advice, but if anyone's still telling you to take this vaccine, the data is so overwhelming. The second stage for us was Antifa and BLM. That was all just to confuse you. The 6 city blocks that they take out and call Chaz. Happened to be in October 2020 down in DC in front of the FBI when a group of motorcyclists came out all dressed in black gear, and they took over the street in front of ostensibly the world's greatest law enforcement organization. And they were just popping wheelies and burning out and everything. For about 10 minutes, nobody touches them, and they drove off. Again, that was all to disorient you. Even the things like the CNN reporter walking in front of burning buildings and cars and saying, mostly peaceful, this mostly peaceful. Okay, they know that's crazy. That was kind of infuriating, right? That was like, that's deliberate. That's all to get you upside down. You don't know what you thought everybody agrees that this is good and this is bad, but they're showing you something different. Then there was the fake election. And then there was the normalization period, was the whole cancel culture we experienced. I'm going to tell you the solution to this, the ultimate solution to this. And then I'm going to save my last 90 seconds or more to tell you what the news is breaking, so you can understand what's going on behind the news. The greatest solution to this, the long-term solution to this, or let's say the final solution to this, is your sheriffs have to be elected by you, the people. And by the way, I think it is through a fluke. I think it's through the education of General Flynn that we beat this, we jujitsu'd out of this tyranny this time. We are really lucky. Now that it's over, I'll tell you that Flynn and we spoke in January 2021, and he said it's maybe 5% our country gets through this. He never thought we were going to make it to this last election. The tyranny is right at the door. It didn't go away. The same people who did that are still among you. I just looked up the statistics today. Just so you know, after World War II, there was a convention called Nuremberg where they said, the whole world agreed on one thing, that we're never going to have forced medical experiments again. And if you read the first, it just fits on a page, and it's quite short to read. And if you just read the first point, it says there's not going to be forced participation in a medical experiment. And by force, we mean any duress, deceit, any coercion, anything counts as force. We're never going to have a forced medical experiment again. Well, the whole world agreed to that. And then the whole world just violated the Nuremberg Code, because there was a massive pressure on, you can go look this up tonight, what the Nuremberg Code says is the first principle. You'd think that there could never be any debate about what just happened to us, but it just happened to us again. The people who did that, and when that happened, let me remind you, I don't want to name any particular political parties, I don't want to be partisan, but there is a political party in America that thought 52% of them agreed during that if you didn't take COVID, you could be arrested and confined, would be okay. And 56% agreed that if you didn't give your COVID shots to your kids, they could be taken away, and so on and so forth. There was one party where over 50% of the people thought that's okay. Seems odd. It's hard to me. We're living in America, and we're waking up and discovering there's this whole class of people around us who believe in tyranny, who've completely forgotten the basic principles. And by the way, they're still out there. They're still out there scheming. And one of the big things they have to take away from you is your sheriffs. Because ultimately the sheriff's job, the American way of viewing government is not some overarching entity in the sky. Government's just this agent that we created. Just like, there were some things we couldn't do ourselves, so we created a list, and we couldn't have our states do them. So we created a list of things we would have this new corporation do that we were just creating. It's just a new company. It's like we created a plumbing company, and we created this new company called the federal government, and the list is Article 1, Section 8. It's the only things it's allowed to do. Well, there's tyrants among us who have never been happy with this solution. They want to overthrow it. Now, they think they have good reasons for overthrowing it. Some of them are just terrible, horrible people. Some of them are social justice warriors. And social justice warriors have big plans for how they think they could redesign the world. And to them, the Constitution is a set of handcuffs that prevents them from doing all these big, good things they want to do. So not all of them are evil. Some of them are just deluded. But a fair bit of them are evil. They're just evil, tyrannical people. And we've seen that in our neighbors in the last 5 years. And just remember, they're still there. We got lucky, and they're still scheming. So anyone want to know? Emerald Robinson is breaking a truth. She's the only one who has this truth. But for the last 18 months, she's been riding shotgun with a group of other players and myself. General Flynn was kind of the Gandalf, if you know the Lord of the Rings story. He was kind of our advisor, but we hobbits were out having our mission. And our mission was we hacked the government of Venezuela to steal the secrets of how they steal elections. And we did so both electronically and by getting defectors. And when their election came last July 28th of 2024, they normally, how they've been staying in power for 25 years is the dictator gets 2 million votes, the people against them get 7 million votes, they stuff 5.5 million votes, 7.5 beat 7, and they win again, over and over and over. We broke the machine that lets them do that, which is why they had such a tangled election. And we also, and this is just starting to leak out there, we know how they cheat in elections. There's 14, I've been living with Venezuelans who built this system for the last 2 years. There's 14 ways of cheating on the ground, and there's a 15th way from over in Serbia. And they cheat all they need to on the ground to get what they want as close as possible, and then the 15th wave, they jammed through the rest from Serbia. We disrupted, or that process was disrupted, the last election, November 5th of 2024. It was a lucky uppercut. I think the padlock was going on our dungeon door. We were never supposed to get out once Kamala was installed. And we got out by a lucky fluke. It's not going to happen again. We're going to only beat it if we keep up the election integrity work, and we're able to keep, and because what we've learned is all the normal mechanisms for digging into bad elections. We learned in the last 5 years, all the courts will stop you and the tyrants will stop you, that the sheriffs have such a key role in stopping it. So keep your sheriffs. Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you, sir.
Patrick Byrne.
Good to see you again.
Notice how tall some of these guys are.